Well, there are a few scenarios in which a master's degree might be a better route than a doctoral degree. One of them is when your career goals are really more aligned with a master's degree than a doctoral degree. There's a variety of psychology careers that don't actually require a PhD or a PsyD. As a general rule of thumb, if you do not want to do research full-time capacity or you do not want to become a professor, then you generally will not need that doctoral degree. Instead, if you're more interested in working in what we call the applied fields, in other words, you want to practice psychology in one way or another, then many of those careers only require a master's. Another would be if you cannot or do not want to commit the time and the financial resources and your effort into a 4 to 6 year full-time student situation. PhD students, it takes them 4 to 5 to 6 years to complete their doctorate, and generally they don't hold jobs outside of their university assistantships. They're full-time students. Whereas with master's degree students, they can usually hold a job and be students at the same time. Master's programs are designed that way. So classes are held at night a lot of times after work hours, 6 o'clock or so. Another may be if you don't know exactly what you want to study or what you want your training to be in. Doctoral degrees are a huge commitment and one that shouldn't be made maybe before you're totally certain of the area you want your training to be in. So master's degrees, if you take those 2 years or so, will really help you hone in on what you want to specialize in and get some more experience in the field of psychology, do a little research, and learn a lot more about what it's like to be a grad student. Another reason why you might want to go for a master's instead of a doctoral route is to improve your chances to get into a PhD or PsyD program later in the future. Application materials between the two don't really differ that much. Both when you apply for a master's or a doctoral program, you'll be required to submit your transcripts from your undergraduate work, and GPA will be very important. Letters of recommendation will be required for both, as well as an application essay, or what we generally call a personal statement. The place where it may differ is that doctoral programs will always require GRE scores to be submitted, and master's programs may not require those in some cases, though they more often do than do not. Both master's and doctoral programs will require an interview of some sort, whether it be on Skype or on the phone, or a group interview, or a one-on-one interview with a professor. There are some factors that people should definitely consider when they're narrowing down where to apply. Number one are geographical considerations. If you have a job and you want to stay kind of in where you are now and be able to do the job and go into a master's program, certainly that's something to consider. If you have family or regional preferences, where you want to live, do you want to live in a city or more of a college town? Certainly those are all things to consider when you're starting your search. Money and financial considerations. There's going to be differences with private schools versus public schools, with public schools in-state versus out-of-state tuition, and the availability of assistantships or scholarships or other ways to fund your master's degree is a very big consideration. What type of psychology masters is the program offering? There's many different types of psychology master's degrees: counseling, clinical, an experimental master's, an IO or industrial organizational master's. If you're interested in working in like a corporate setting with employees on their productivity, work-life balance, or leadership, etc., diversity issues, an industrial organizational master's is going to be the route for you. If, however, you're really into working with couples and want to do therapy, then a family and marriage therapy program would be a great choice. The most important factors in whether or not an applicant is accepted or not are GPA and, if required, GRE scores. So grades and GRE scores are very important. The best predictor of your performance in grad school is your performance as an undergrad, and committees know this. After that, your letters of recommendation and personal statement are of next importance, so those should be in order. And after that are your research and practical experience in psychology. Those are considered. Using cliches in your personal statement. That is, saying things that do not set you apart from all of the other applicants. So for instance, if you say in your statement that you want to go into psychology because you want to help people, that may very well be true, and it's a nice, warm sentiment, but in the end, probably it's true of 100% of the applicants in their pile. Another thing that could be a pitfall in application essays is spending too much time trying to explain away your weaknesses, low grades or lack of research experience or lack of practical experience. Better to just focus on and highlight really your strengths rather than explain away weaknesses. Some applicants make the mistake of providing too much personal information about their own mental health or their family members' mental health. That's a red flag, and you should stay away from that in your statements. My best piece of advice is to start early. Start early on things that will be reflected in your application. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to start writing your personal statement years in advance, but start raising and maintaining a high GPA years in advance. Start studying and preparing for the GRE long before you're going to take the test, a few months at least. Also, start getting that practical experience, getting involved with research at best maybe 2 years before you're going to apply. In the end, this is going to show committees that this was not a last-minute decision for you. You were very intent on being a graduate student for a few years now, and you've been thinking about it, and your decision is deliberate and genuine, and you're really ready to be a grad student.